Hey guys, this is Ryan Lina. You may remember me from the podcast with Rich talking about the Harford County comedy scene. Well, I'm here to tell you the tickets are on sale now for my first ever live comedy special taping, Ryan Lina, The Silliest Goose, at the Havre de Grace State Theater on March 15th. It's going to be a night of food, drinks, laughter, and good times. Bring your friends, your family, your spouse, your enemies. I don't care. As long as they like to laugh, they're going to want to see the show. Tickets are available at bigtimingcomedy.com/events. Again, that's bigtimingcomedy.com/events. Buy some tickets and we'll see you on the 15th. And now, back to the show.
Hey everyone, it's Rich Bennett. Can you believe it? The show is turning 10 this year. I am so grateful for each and every one of you who've tuned in, shared an episode, or even joined the conversation over the years. You're the reason that this podcast has grown into what it is today. Together, we've shared laughs, tears, and moments that truly matter. So I want to thank you for being part of this journey. Let's make the next 10 years even better.
Coming to you from the Freedom Federal Credit Union Studios, Harford County Living presents Conversations with Rich Bennett.
Slow pitch
It's probably the least sexy part of the organization. No. The truth is,
those of you listening, I got a very special guest on today. I've never met him. We've never met each other that I know of. But he contacted us through the website.
Podmatch.
Was it Podmatch?
Yeah, Podmatch.
Really?
I take that.
I didn't know you. I was going to say, I didn't know you were on Podmatch.
Yeah, maybe through the website.
Yeah, I think it was through the website, through the request form.
Okay.
And so I asked somebody from my team to find out more about him, which she couldn't find out anything. So it's like, oh, this is perfect. So I have Ray Lozano on, and we're going to learn more about Ray, something I've been wanting to try, and we're going to do it. He agreed to be my guinea pig. So his elevator pitch. So first of all, welcome, Ray, and tell us, who in the world is Ray Lozano?
Who in the world is Ray? Well, my elevator pitch when I'm at a conference goes just like this. Hi, my name's Ray Lozano. I work with junior high and high school kids in the area of drug and alcohol prevention. Do you know anybody that falls in that category? Or you know any parents who are struggling with their kids when it comes to drugs and alcohol? And so that usually just fires things up right there. And so what I do, and it's super easy to find me on the web if you just Google my name, is I go into junior high and high schools, and they bring all the kids in the auditorium, and I do this motivational presentation talking about drugs and alcohol. And it's not a testimonial. I don't have the, hey kids, I did this, you don't do this. And it's not the fear factor. What mine is, I guess this is the best way to explain it. What the Dallas newspaper said a couple years ago, they said it was like watching George Lopez do drug information. So that's who Ray Lozano is.
Holy cow. I just Googled your name. You came up right away.
Instantly.
RayLozano.com.
Right. Yeah.
And some of you listening may be yelling like, Rich, you always practice, do your research first. Well, I didn't want to. I
love it like this, Rich. I think this is a great idea. Yeah.
It's like, because first of all, I'm blown away. I didn't realize what you do. And we talk about addiction a lot.
Uh-huh.
The podcast is number one in the addiction category on Good Pods.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. But
that's the connection. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. So, and what you're doing with high school kids, and you said middle school kids?
Yeah. I go all the way down to 6th grade. And one of the big factors right now is I have schools that want me to start talking to 7th and 8th graders about fentanyl and make it age appropriate. And so that's what we're doing right now. We're in the process, probably about the next 2 or 3 weeks, it'll be finalized.
So what made you decide you wanted to do this?
Here it is, man. Age 5, I am laying on the floor in this room, hot, tired, and crabby, and trying to take my little shoes off. I look up, and I think the reason why my brain turned on is because my mom was crying really hard, and I started to panic.
Oh, shit.
So I'm laying on the floor. My mom's telling me in English and broken Spanish. She's telling me, Mijito, put your shoes back on. Sus zapatos, put them back on, put them back on. And she grabs my little shoes and she jams them on my feet real tight and ties them real tight. Literally grabs me by my shirt and pulls me up. No clue, Rich, what she's doing. And so she grabs my hand and we go walking all the way down the front of this room, and she's crying the entire time. But I remember her saying this. She kept saying, he's a good boy. He's a good boy. Don't do this. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. And I had no clue. So I'm holding my mom's hand, walking all the way down to the front of this room, get to the front of this room. There's a little wooden fence in the front of this room. Put my little arms on this wooden fence, and I'm looking up at my mom, and I'm getting more scared because she's crying really hard. Yeah. And so then I stop and I turn to see what my mom was looking at. And when I stop and turn, I see my older brother. I'm the baby of the family. So when I was 5, my sister's 7 years older than me. My next brother's 14 years older than me. And the brother that I'm looking at is 17 years older than me. So when I was 5, standing next to my mom, I'm looking at my 22-year-old brother. Here's what he looks like. Orange jumpsuit. Has chains that go around his waist, has handcuffs connected to those chains, has chains around his ankles, and the back of his orange jumpsuit, it says County of San Diego. And what my brother started doing straight out of high school is he would walk across the border from where we lived in the United States into Tijuana. He'd purchase heroin, stuff it into condoms, and he'd tie them up and he'd swallow them and he'd walk them back across the border. Now, my brother was not doing this for he was smuggling basically for himself. And so he got busted with a couple of 8 balls, and now he's being sentenced to go to a federal penitentiary because he had done this several times. My mom's crying, he's a good boy, he's a good boy. And you probably know judges don't care about moms crying, right? Mm-hmm. So they sentenced my brother. This was back in the 70s. The judge talked to the sheriff, and I could just see this in my mind. Talked to the sheriff. The sheriff walked over to my brother, spun him around. Now my brother's looking at my mom and me. I don't know where my dad was. And this hard, tough guy, my brother, started to cry. Sheriff walks him over to mom, unclips his handcuffs from the chain around his waist, which you normally don't do in a courtroom.
Right.
He put his arms around mom and he hugged her goodbye. And I think the judge did this because I was in the room. So my brother's hugging my mom goodbye. I can see my brother's mouth, and all he's saying is, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And all my mom is saying is, I love you, I love you. You know how mom's love is in this situation. So then I remember, and I thought as a kid, that's rough. I saw the sheriff grab my brother and pull him off mom and then push him down on me. And I remember my brother put those handcuffs around me, gave me a kiss on my cheek, and he actually saved my life that day. My brother,
really?
Yeah, my brother whispered in my ear. He said, "Little brother, don't do drugs, man. Drugs are bad. Don't do drugs." And I didn't know what he was talking about, but my older brother was telling me something, right? So I needed to kind of listen to that. Well, they picked him up, reclipped those handcuffs, and off he goes. And something in my brain, that was a weird situation. That's Rich, that's the very first thing that goes in my brain. That's the day my brain turned on,
At 5 years old.
5 years old, yeah. So now fast forward, this is the day that got me to be on your podcast today. 9 years old, sitting on the curb. My mom's right here, I'm right here, my dad's right here, my sister's right here. I remember having a little blanket around me, and my mom has her arm around me, and my dad had his arm around, my sister, his daughter. Right. And we're sitting on the curb, man. Lights are flashing, neighbors are out, and my other brother had brought in some drugs from Mexico because we lived right on the border.
Oh, Jesus.
Brought him into the house, and now the cops are going through the house searching for those drugs. And something on that curb clicked in my brain, and I thought, why do people do drugs? I never saw the good side of it, Rich. I always saw the bad side. My dad, great guy. He would drink, and then about 10:30 at night, he would start fighting. My mom, wonderful lady. But when she got drunk, for some reason, she thought at this point when she's intoxicated, it's okay to yell at us or even hit us as kids. My sister, and I've asked her a million times if this is okay. My sister probably did drugs this morning. And so my sister is still out there, and we can talk more about that. But right there at age 9, it clicked in my head, like, why do people do drugs? Why is my dad a good guy? He drinks and then he fights. Why is my mom a nice lady? She drinks and then she yells at us. And then I just turned into this obnoxious 9-year-old kid asking everybody, why does my dad do that?
Yeah.
So I asked teachers, I asked our priest, I asked neighbors, and everybody gave me the same answer, Rich, because of alcohol. And I'm like, yeah, I know that. But what's the mechanism? What is the thing that clicks in their head that alcohol makes them do?
Triggers it, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I had to find the answer to. And so in high school, I did a project on alcohol. The teachers loved it. And it has become this lifelong pursuit to understand drugs and the mechanism. Why is nicotine so addictive? I can answer that. Why can't I remember stuff when I smoke weed? I can answer that. The best question, I had a kid ask me in high school. He goes, why do girls look better the more I get drunk? And I'm like, I can answer that. So yeah. And so that's how I got to be on your podcast today, is because it's been this lifelong pursuit of understanding drugs, the mechanism of drugs. So I'm working with a parent or a group of parents, and they're like, how can my own kid steal from me? I love him. How can they rip me off? I'm like, let me explain why that happens when it comes to drugs and alcohol. And so many times parents are like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, because they're not thinking. It's basically the drugs and the alcohol. It's doing the thinking for them.
Doing the thing for them, but it's the whole process in the brain of the reward system.
Yeah.
So like my sister, I'll give you this as an example. What most drug and alcohol counselors do, and is, like, let's say I was counseling you. Okay, you had this big, huge problem with drugs and alcohol. You're sitting in front of me. You got drunk 2 days ago, right? And I look at you and go, Rich, you know what, man? You need to stop drinking because you're going to lose your podcast. You're going to lose your family. You're going to lose your house. You're going to lose your car. You're going to lose your job. Now, to me, that makes complete sense. But to the alcoholic or the drug addict, they don't care about that.
No, they don't.
Not a big concern. You can go ahead and turn that off real quick, Chris. They don't care about that. And so I'm basically, when I would do that to my sister, she's like, I don't care. The important thing is drugs and alcohol. And so we have to change our language for those of us that are working with people that have addictions to understand, if you're talking about their job, they don't care. If they're talking if they're talking about, you're hurting me as a mom because you're stealing from me, it doesn't matter, because the drug is what the reward is. And we all hunt for the reward.
Yeah, because you can even talk to somebody and tell them, they may lose their life or they may take another life. And it's like in one ear and out the other.
Oh, yeah, totally. So you have to learn their language. You have to understand how to speak to a person that has an addiction. And when you can learn their language, you can really make an impact, like I've done with my sister. And I've been practicing on my sister for a long time. It's like if you spoke Spanish and I spoke Mandarin Chinese, and Rich, I'm going to give you the secret to eternal life, you're not going to get it because you don't speak the same language. And that's what's happening.
How long did it actually take you to learn how to speak that language?
Oh, man, I started practicing, and I actually have a little bit of a TED Talk on this.
Okay.
I just started with my sister. Gosh, this has been quite a while. And realizing that the advice I was giving her, she wasn't taking it. And when I would give her advice, it would even make her madder. And I thought, there's something wrong here. There's something that's not working with this language that I'm speaking, or these words. And again, I'm thinking I'm speaking English. She understands English, but because of how the drug affects her brain, it doesn't make sense. So, yeah. And you know what, Rich? You spoke that language. Everybody spoke that language up until age 21. And then after age 21, we changed our language and our brain starts to think different. So you want me to give it to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am floored.
I am. Yeah.
Yes.
Rich, this is why I do like 400 presentations a year all across the United States, is because people are like, wow, this information is crazy. All right.
Everybody needs it.
Here it is. All right. Here's the language, and I hope people get this. Rich, you and I are best friends. Okay. We've known each other for 20 some years. You live 2 houses down from me. You have a swimming pool, I got a great barbecue grill, right? You have a swimming party, I'm over at your house. I'm barbecuing, you're over at my house. I go on vacation, I hand you the key to my house, you have freedom to walk in my house, right? We're best friends. Makes sense, right? We've known each other for a long, long time. Now, one day I am watching something on TV and I get this knock on the door, right? Unexpected. I open up the door. There you are, Rich. You're standing right there at the front door. You look terrible. You're crying. Your clothes are messed up. You can tell, man, you have had the worst 24 hours in your entire life. And I look at you and I go, man, Rich, best friend, what's wrong? You look at me and you have this huge lump in your throat. You can't even get the words out. And you're like, Ray, my yellow lab buddy just died, right? Now, this is your dog. This is the dog that you love that's been part of your family. And I look at you and I say, Rich, get in here, man. Sit down at the table right there. Let me get you a little piece of cake and a cup of coffee because we're good friends. I want to help you through this situation. You know what I did for you, Rich? Let me tell you this, man. I spent 2 hours because we actually saw this coming. I spent 2 hours, and you're going to love this, buddy. I put a PowerPoint presentation together that is going to explain your situation. And I open up my laptop, right? And I start showing you all of these statistics, Rich. Man, yellow labs get hip cancer at age 12, but yours didn't. Yellow labs are sick. Yellow labs have a tendency to get their stomach twisted. And then, Rich, get this. I have all of this mathematical pie charts and graphs and all of this information. And now I'm going to show you some stuff of the Dalai Lama. And I'm sitting there watching you watch this PowerPoint that I created you. Let me ask you this, Rich. When I'm showing you that PowerPoint presentation, are you feeling closer to me or are you feeling further away from me? More than likely, you are getting upset with me showing you a PowerPoint presentation on your situation, right?
Yeah.
Here's the reason why. Because you are speaking a language that I love to teach. You are speaking an emotional language. I am speaking an intelligent language. Now, don't get the idea that intelligence is better than emotion because we need both of these. They're equal. But you're coming at me with an emotional intelligence, emotional language. My best dog just died. Let me show you a statistic. And this is what we normally do with people that have an addiction, because people that have an addiction, kids, speak an emotional language. What we come at them with is we come at them with an intelligent language. The more I give you statistics about yellow labs, you're not getting happy with me. You're actually becoming more angry with me.
Yeah.
At some point, you're going to go, I thought we were friends, right? How can you even talk to me? And you're going to walk out of there feeling unsatisfied. You're going to walk out of there being angry with me. You're going to be angry with the situation, and it's going to take a while to repair that situation. Okay. All right, Rich, I'm going to put you on the spot. Okay. Here we go. Same situation. Watching TV, knock on the door, open the door. You're standing there all tore up. You look at me and you say, my yellow lab buddy just died. Rich, what do I need to do right then? What is the thing that you need from me right then?
Probably a hug.
You got it. You got it, man. That's it. You remember the language. You just haven't used it for it. I need to look at you and not say one word, Rich. I need to throw my arms around my best friend. And you know what I do? I cry with you. And I sit there and I listen to you and I say, oh my God, Rich, just come here, man. And you know what, Rich? If we stand there for 22 minutes, I don't care. Once you're done crying and my shoulder's all wet, I look at you and go, Rich, man, sit down. Sit down at the place at the kitchen table where you sat down a million times before. And you know what I do? I just listen to you. That's it. I just listen to you, Rich. And then at some point, I'm going to say something like this. Oh my gosh, Rich, that's crazy what happened. But you know what? I think yellow labs get hip cancer right around age 12. Did Buddy ever have that? Oh my gosh, no, he didn't, right? And you know what? Most yellow labs only live to be 12, but Buddy lived to be 14, right? That's cool, Rich.
Yeah.
And you know what? I know that, like, Most yellow labs like get this stomach thing that happens, but Buddy never did. That's great. Am I giving you the same information as that PowerPoint presentation? 100%. But you know what I'm doing, Rich? I'm speaking your language first.
Right.
That is the mistake that drug and alcohol counselors make. That's the mistake that parents make is they talk intelligence and their kid speaks emotion. How did I kind of start to discover this? And if you're a parent right now listening to this podcast, please understand this. I'm sitting across from my son. My daughter, my son, and my wife are sitting at this table, just dinner. And our kids are always open to talk about whatever they wanted to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
My son looked at me one night as we're eating dinner and he goes, Dad, he goes, you know what? You're just like a parrot. And I said, a parrot like a bird or a parent like a mom and dad? He goes, no, like the bird, a parrot.
Oh, okay.
And I go, really? I said, why do you say that? He goes, Dad, you say the same things every night. Rock, clean your room. Rock, do your homework. Rock, put the dishes away. Rock. He said, that's all you ever say. He said, I know what you're going to say because you always say the same thing. Rich, it caught me off guard. And I'm like, oh my gosh. The situation that parents do is they get to the place where all they do is speak instructions to their kids.
Repeat.
That's it. Clean your room, throw the trash, walk the dog, put the dishes away, and that's all they do. And they lose conversation. And what ends up happening is kids don't know how to have that conversation. So when a kid comes home and a mom's like, hey, how was your day? They look at mom and go, good. And then the mom gets all upset. Why did he say? Because that is how you taught them.
Yeah.
And so you never taught them how to have a conversation. So, Rich, emotional language underneath the age of 21. Since I've done this, since I've been teaching parents, I had a mom just literally 3 weeks ago. Her daughter was coming back from recovery and was going to come back into the house, and she was super scared. And I said, don't talk intelligence. Don't stop it. And she goes, what does that mean? I'm like, if I went up to any drug addict on the street and I go, is heroin bad? You know, every one of them is going to say, yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, no shit.
I'm not going to find one heroin addict who's going to go, what? What are you talking about? I thought this was like a new health crate. No, everybody knows it's bad. So why tell them it's bad? Because they already know that, right? So the thing I said, here's what you need to do. When your daughter comes home, get her dressed, put her in the car, and go buy her some waffles. That's it. And sit across the table from her and talk about nothing.
Yeah.
Don't give her instructions. Don't tell her what the rules of the house are. Just say, hey, man, let me try to rebuild this relationship with you. Because, Rich, we all do this. We all protect the thing that makes us feel good. And if that daughter knows that she can make her mom feel good, she's going to protect it whatever way. And that'll keep her from going back to drugs. Got a call from the mom. She said this information on emotional and intelligent language has revolutionized their house. And she's totally changed it. And she's seen these amazing things happen with her daughter.
Wow.
That's it, man. That's it. And that's what I want to change the world with right there.
So do you actually, all right, I know you go to the schools and talk to the kids, but do you actually also teach the parents?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good.
So what they do is they usually have me come in and talk to the kids and, you know, all different types of drugs and stuff like that. And then in the evening, they'll put a parent evening together, like, you know, it's called How to Get Your Kids Addicted to You. Because we all
I love that.
We all have addictive personalities. We all, you know, and not every addiction. And anytime people hear the word addiction, they immediately think, you know, something bad, but we all have it.
Right.
You know, not every addiction is going to make us wreck our car. Not every addiction is going to destroy our family. There's people that's addicted to, you know, helping other people. There's people that are addicted to working out, which is a benefit. But we all have it. We all have something that has to go inside our head and hit that reward button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. I'm shocked. One of the things I definitely want to ask you, though, I keep going back to 5-year-old Ray.
Okay.
And I remember growing up seeing my older brother locked up a couple of times, and it's a sight you never want to see, especially, or you know, the cops surrounding the house. It's scary, and as a kid, it scares the hell out of you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
and you said it was both of your brothers. When you were 5, it was your older brother at 22, right? And then the second time when you guys were sitting out front, the cops were going through the house, that was your other brother who was 17 at the time?
17 years older than me. So he would,
okay.
Yeah, he would have been right around the same age now, 22, and my other brother would have been like 25 at that time. Yeah.
Okay. I'm afraid to ask you this question because you keep saying would have been.
Yeah.
Are they still around today?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My brother did go to prison, and he was a real low-level drug dealer. Like I said, he was walking across the border to get drugs for himself. When he got into prison, he realized I can't hang with these kind of people. I don't have that in me to be,
right.
That. And so he just did his time real quiet and came out a whole different guy. And because he changed his life, I was probably mid-teen years when he came back, and then he started talking to my mom about her drinking, and he did it in a real nice way. And over a period of time, we saw the family change, except for my sister. And so I literally talked to my sister every day, and she ran drugs for drug dealers and did all the stuff that, that happens. I love her. And, I'm just her brother now. I don't try to save her anymore because we had that conversation, and she's like, just be my brother. Just don't try to save me. She goes, I love my life, and so, yeah. And so that's how it is with my sister right now.
Well, and you hear this all the time, but it's hard to save somebody if they don't want to save themselves.
Oh gosh, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Now, do either one of your brothers actually go on any of these speaking events with you?
No, they don't, because I don't do testimonial stuff. And so one of my brothers I used to work with a little bit, and he, would go out and do presentations and stuff like that. But because I don't have the testimonial thing, I maybe have had, I hardly ever drink. Maybe I'll have a glass of wine or never smoked a cigarette, never tried weed or anything, because I was just afraid of it. I think I have that personality where I'd go crazy, And so, yeah, we worked together for a little while, and, we've all been really close after this, once my dad kind of turned his life around. And so, yeah.
Good.
Can I push my book?
Okay, now, because I'm looking at your website, I don't see anything about a book, Ray.
Yeah, it's just because it just came out the beginning of this year, but it's called Addicted to Learning.
I love it.
What I do is I talk about these crazy stories of my family, like my dad fighting, and then I go into the whole explanation of why alcohol did that. And one of my favorite chapters in there is the tour of my sister's homes. And so my sister, being a pretty serious meth addict, and cooking meth and running meth across the border, I used to visit her at all her different homes. And one home was a broken down mobile home with broken cars in the front and dead plants and all that kind of stuff. And one of her houses was made out of pellets. And I talk about her dog that used to eat cigarette butts because he had a nicotine addiction. I know, huh? God. And then I talk about one of her homes where, she lived in a storage unit. And it's crazy because I taught my kids, and I wrote this blog years ago, said I taught my kids about meth. And oh my gosh, it just got this big, huge thing. Because my kids were getting into high school, and I wanted to teach them the bad side of drugs before their friends taught them about the good side, So I took my son and daughter to my sister's house, called her up, told her we were going to come for a visit, and it was a 12-hour drive from our house. We lived in Southern California, had to drive out to New Mexico. And so it gave me 12 hours to just talk with the kids, and so we talked about everything, not just my sister. And then about 3 hours before we got to the house, I said, listen, let me tell you this, kids, don't eat or drink anything at her house. I said, we're going to take the sodas, we're going to take the chips, we're going to take all the snacks. I said, don't mess with any of her stuff. I said, because I don't know if she's used it to cook meth or not,
Oh, God.
And I said, so we're going to spend the day there. We're going to, hang out with my sister. I said, and here's what's going to happen. I've told my sister we're going to be there at 9 o'clock. From 9 o'clock to about 2 o'clock, my sister's going to be unbelievably happy to see you. You're probably going to take an engine apart. You're probably going to jump rope. You're probably going to go for a walk. You're probably going to go out to the lake. We're going to do all of this stuff. And then right around 2:30, 3 o'clock, I said, my sister, you'll see this change in her where she's going to get kind of quiet, maybe sit in the corner for a little bit, maybe a little bit depressed. And then something will happen where she'll have to leave. And then when she comes back, she'll be that happy person again. My kids are like, okay, and so sure enough, we got there and we did it all, man. We baked the cake. We took some wood things apart. We built some stuff outside. And sure enough, right around, 2 o'clock, my sister's like, oh my gosh, I forgot to get frosting for the cake. And I'm like, well, let me drive you to Walmart. She's like, no. I'll just walk there and come right back. And it was probably like a 15-minute walk that took her about an hour and a half. And when she came back, she was happy again, And my son had to go to the bathroom in a 5-gallon bucket with, a trash bag in it, which freaked him out. And I said, that's my sister's life. I said, I love my sister. She's fantastic. She would give whatever money she had to anybody. But I said, the problem is this is where drugs have gotten her. So we talked about it all the way home. So my kids were introduced to the bad side of meth before they were introduced to the good side,
I was going to say that's probably a good thing too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they're experiencing it firsthand.
Oh yeah.
But I never thought about that as far as don't eat or drink anything.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. When we cracked that door open, you could smell those chemicals. And sure enough, in the dumpster, there's all the paint thinners and all that kind of stuff. And, my sister became very good at cooking meth.
Yeah. And you cover that in the book?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I talk all about that in there. Yeah. Yeah.
You're listening to Conversations with Rich Bennett. We'll be right back. Cancer is a serious public health concern that affects many people. It can be a difficult and frightening experience for those affected and their families and friends. I want to urge everyone to take steps to prevent and detect cancer early. There are many things you can do, such as eating healthy, exercising regularly, getting regular checkups, and avoiding risky behaviors. Let's work together to make sure that everyone is aware of the importance of public health and cancer prevention. The Harford County Health Department offers no-cost screenings for colorectal cancer as well as breast and cervical cancer through their partnership with University of Maryland Upper Chesapeake Health for eligible individuals. Go to harfordcountyhealth.com to find out more information. So, all right, the book, is it the book like a memoir or?
Gosh, it's kind of a weird situation because it's a memoir, but it has explanations of why drugs do what they do. And it's just a real quick, short little read, but there's a whole bunch of stuff in there for parents. Like, parents, like, they'll tell me, man, I told my kid don't smoke weed, but now what do I say? Right. And so I give them a whole bunch of information on how to work with their kids, how to talk to their kids when it comes to drugs and alcohol.
So basically it's a guidebook with some stories in there.
Yeah. The story,
which is great.
And because what I have found, the people that have read it are like, oh yeah, my dad drank all the time and I used to see him fight. And now I understand that,
I know a lot of people that need this book.
Oh, good. Well, man, let's throw it up.
I will. How do they get it?
Yeah. Super easy. Just go to Amazon and type in Addicted to Learning. And it's crazy because this is my mom, my 14-year-old older brother than me, my dad, and then my other brother. But I had to cover their faces. This is my sister right here.
Okay.
But this picture, we were at a restaurant and this guy walked up and said, let me take this photo. This was probably 1970. Everybody in the photo was either drunk or high. I'm the only one that wasn't. But I
was going to ask you if the picture of the only face was you.
Yeah. And so I'm smiling, man. I have no clue what's going on. Look at that innocent little kid. But everybody, man, you to see my brother's eyes. He's like, ooh, my dad was, yeah.
And when did the book come out?
Just at the beginning of this year. So it's only been out for 30 days. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
With your book, and this is your first one, right?
Yeah. I'm working on my second one. So yeah.
All right. You gotta tell her, what's the second one about?
I want to do this one because I also do stuff on business, but I still want to incorporate it. This one's called Addicted to Learning.
Right.
My second one, I want to call it Addicted to Business, and just how to work with people, that have addictions, people that, and how addiction works inside our brain and how to work with all that. So my goal, Rich, is I just want people, number one, if you have a drug addict brother or sister or mom or dad, the thing that we always do is we always dehumanize that individual.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we treat them like garbage, and that doesn't benefit anybody. My sister, drug addict, but she's still a human being. My sister still has opinions. My sister still has feelings. They go against everything I believe, but that doesn't mean I need to treat her like trash, right? That doesn't mean I need to belittle her. So how do I treat my sister in a respectful way, even though she's doing a bunch of stuff that I don't like? And so that's one of the things that I want to talk about in these books, because I see it happen time and time again. And I understand putting up boundaries. There was a time I had to put up boundaries with my sister because we lived like a block and a half away. And then once she really started to get into meth, I'm like, sister, I can't allow you to come into my house anymore. And was that hard? Yeah, that was hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
But I wanted to protect my relationship with my sister. And she's like, okay, I said, just because I know stuff will end up missing. It's just too easy to have that happen.
You got to protect your family too.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I had to put up those boundaries. And so, that's the thing.
I think you're going to have a whole addicted series.
Yeah, I want to have a whole addicted series. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, just because it's out there. Anytime I talk to anybody, everybody has a family member or knows somebody that goes too far or is the crazy one and all that kind of stuff.
And I take it you're still in California?
No, I have moved to out to Las Vegas because I travel so much.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
It's so much easier to get around. So,
well, that was going to be my other question. With all the speaking you're doing, are you traveling across the country?
Yeah, 10 and a half months out of the year, I'm on the road. So, yeah, and I love it. And my wife travels with me with quite a few trips. And so this year alone, let me see, we're into 30 days. I have probably already been on the road 14 of these 30 days. Yeah, and so I got home, it's Thursday. I got home Tuesday night. Yeah, I was home yesterday and I'm home today, and then I'll be out next week. So, yeah.
I hope you got a nice RV or something.
No, all airline travel, man. I am.
Oh, okay.
I am a hotel guy, Airbnb. Yeah.
Well, if you ever make it out here to Maryland, look me up, man. We'll go get some crabs or something.
Nice. Yeah, I actually was out there not too long ago. I flew into Baltimore.
Okay.
Yeah, and a nice little airport out there, and I'm sure I have something on the books with Maryland. Yeah, without a doubt, because I've been out there pretty much every year. They bring me out to the junior highs and high schools out there.
Okay. Yeah, which neat, because on this 95, on the 95 corridor.
Yes.
Fentanyl. And I'll tell you another thing that's a big problem right now. I had two guys from a local nonprofit. The one's in recovery. The other one lost his daughter to addiction, and they were talking about something that it blew me. I was like, "Wait a minute, what?" Me and Wendy, who co-hosts with me a lot, didn't know about this, but apparently, well, as you know, because they were lacing heroin with fentanyl. Now it's just like straight fentanyl.
Yeah.
But out here, and I hope they're not doing it out there. Fentanyl, they're taking fentanyl and mixing it with xylazine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've heard about it.
Oh gosh, yeah, I'm up on all that. And
that is scary as hell.
Yeah. There's a drug called Trank out there. And have you seen any of those videos? I don't want to do it on your show, but where people are standing up and they're like face down like this.
Yeah, like a zombie.
Yeah, exactly like a zombie. What's happening with those is they're mixing fentanyl with a horse tranquilizer. Now, what this horse tranquilizer does for veterinarians, if a veterinarian is going to go work on a horse, they inject this horse with not the fentanyl part, but with the
xylazine.
Yeah, xylazine. And then what happens is it makes the horse's legs really stiff, so the horse won't lay down, but it puts them in this unconscious kind of state standing up. So they're able to work on horses while they're still standing up. Wow. So the reason why people stay standing up is because their legs are getting that xylazine, making that, stand up straight. But the fentanyl part is causing the collapse of the top part of the body. And so that's why you're happening. You want some
God,
terrible news?
it's messed up. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
the one guy told us that people are losing their limbs
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
from this.
Well,
It's all like leprosy.
yeah. The reason why that happens is because you don't feel any pain.
Yeah.
So what happens is you cut yourself, you don't realize you cut yourself, and bacteria gets in there. And so that's one of the things that's happening. So the crazy part is there's 2 new drugs on the horizon,
Oh shit.
which there's fentanyl, and then there's a new one coming out called carfentanil, which is even stronger. And then there's another one that's starting to hit the market in Europe right now that's even stronger than carfentanil. And I don't have the name in front of me. I just was reading about it 2 days ago, but they found a way to make it even stronger, so even less. I have a whole presentation on this. Like if somebody's going to overdose on an opioid, yeah, it takes quite a bit. I forget, man, I wish I had that presentation right here. But like if somebody's going to overdose on opioid, it was the size of like a gumball amount that you need. And then I go through all the different things. So if somebody's going to overdose on heroin, it's about the size of a sunflower seed. And then when you get all the way to like fentanyl, all it takes to overdose is about 1 grain of salt.
Jesus.
But the carfentanil is about half a grain of salt. And so what happens is it goes in and it hits a part of your brain. Like right now, what your brain is doing for you, Rich, is it's monitoring carbon monoxide in your system. And so the reason why you breathe in is because carbon monoxide gets too high and your brain goes, "Ooh, got to lower that." So then that's you breathing in. So that's why you breathe in and out. So what happens when a person uses a drug like fentanyl, it shuts that switch off. So the brain can't tell that there's a buildup of carbon monoxide in your system. This is why people pass out. This is why people stop breathing, is because their brain can't monitor the carbon monoxide inside their system. Isn't that crazy?
God, it is.
That's a crazy drug stuff, I know. So, yeah. And so people have asked me, like, if you don't have Narcan, what can you do? So we talk about that as well every now and then. So
what scares me about that? The way these dealers keep making things stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
It makes me worry that later on down the road, Narcan ain't going to do diddly squat.
Oh yeah. 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 Or not work fast enough. Yeah. But hopefully, somebody will come out with something stronger than Narcan. Yeah. But
I think everybody, households and everything, and especially your parks, should always have Narcan on hand.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't realize it expires.
It takes quite a while, to expire. But here's the good part, and I hope this doesn't get changed. Let's say you had Narcan on you and you see somebody that's like freaking out, like maybe having a seizure or something, and you use Narcan on them, even though they didn't need it, you don't get in trouble for that. And so, you can't misuse Narcan, which is, a big plus. And I love that. So, yeah.
Something else you talk about, and we've talked about this because the local health department is one of my sponsors, and we did a roundtable about this. Vaping.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you're seeing more and more kids doing it.
That is our number one presentation right now. I have my daughter who presents. She's out at a school district today, and they're doing 4 presentations at this school just on vaping. And man, I know it always sounds like when they introduce you, like Ray Lozano is going to talk about drugs and alcohol. You always get those kids in the audience like, because it's usually information, But yeah, when we talk about vaping and kids walk out of that presentation, number one, they probably laughed about 12 or 15 times. We've gotten like an applause break because it's really funny. But they walk out knowing why nicotine is so unbelievably addictive to them and why they need to stay away from it. And it's just awful what they put in these vapes nowadays. Like 1 pack of cigarettes has 22 milligrams of nicotine. And so, we don't really work with a metric system here in the United States. But if you ever had eye drops, you know how tiny those little drops are that go in there? That's probably right around 22 milligrams of what's coming out of there. So you figure you take 22 milligrams, a tiny little drop like that, and you break it up into 20 cigarettes. And all it takes is about 3 or 4 milligrams of nicotine to cause an addiction. Now, when you look at these new electronic cigarettes like vapes and stuff like
Yeah.
that, they're putting sometimes like 450 milligrams of nicotine inside there.
Good Lord.
Yeah, some of them are, the equivalent of 650 cigarettes inside one of those little jewel pods. And I wish I had all that information in front of me, but yeah, that's one of the whole things that we do on our presentation, because kids are like, "Oh my gosh, I use an Elf bar." Well, an Elf bar,
Oh,
they're trying to pull off the market because there's like 600 cigarettes inside there, and they just don't
God.
realize it. Yeah, worth of nicotine.
And the scary thing is, and I'll never forget this, when the vapes, electronic cigarettes, whatever they called them, came out, it was advertised, it will help you to quit smoking.
Yes.
But who owned them?
Yeah.
The cigarette companies, of course, they're going to tell you that. People need to open their eyes.
Yeah.
And see this stuff. And doesn't it do something, unless the commercial's lying, but something with like metal in your lungs?
Oh, yeah. You want to know the little bit of the history?
Yes.
All right. So they developed these electronic cigarettes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they thought, I wonder if these are addictive or not. So what they did is they made a whole bunch of them and they dumped them into this third world country. Now, in this third world country, people have maybe $40 a week for food, right? Electronic cigarette was going to run them $5. What they wanted to see is, were people willing to give up $5 worth of food money for their family to buy electronic cigarettes?
Wow.
What they found out is people were willing to give up $5, $10 of their food money to purchase electronic cigarettes. So then they said, wow, we got an addictive product. This is awesome.
Jesus.
So they took them to Europe first. And in Europe, they said, hey, do you want to quit smoking? If you want to quit smoking, switch to electronic cigarettes. So people in Europe have a tendency to be a little bit more health conscious than we do in the United States. So they're like, yes, I want to quit smoking. Let me switch to electronic cigarettes. Literally overnight, people switched to electronic cigarettes. So then they said, let's go for the big fish, man. Let's go to the United States. So they brought them to the United States and they said, hey, United States, do you want to quit smoking? Switch to electronic cigarettes. Well, people in the United States said, nope, I got the right to smoke. If I want to smoke, I'm going to smoke. Nobody. So they didn't sell. So what the electronic cigarette company did, and the first one to make the jump over the line, was one called Blue. And yes. Do you remember that?
Yep.
And they changed their marketing and they said, you know what? You deserve to smoke whenever you want. You shouldn't have people making fun of you because you smell like smoke. You shouldn't have that stigma of a smoker. Switch to electronic cigarettes and you'll smell great. Overnight, people jumped on the electronic cigarette company because now they can smoke, and not have that same stigma. And so they are so highly addictive. But just what comes out of the back of them, you ever taken, of course you have, you ever taken a pack of microwave popcorn and you kind of squish it with your fingers a little bit and you're like, well, it's not a liquid, but it's not a solid. It's kind of like right in between. And then you stick it in your microwave, you turn it on and it immediately heats up. Now, there's a chemical inside there that attracts microwaves. And as soon as a little something hits it, it heats up really fast. This is what is inside electronic cigarettes. Because you imagine you're breathing it in and it has to take something that is a liquid that is cool to an immediate point where it's hot, right? And that's what this chemical does. So what's coming out of the back of it, and we just talked about this, I don't talk a whole bunch about the chemicals because it gets too confusing.
Yeah.
What's coming out of the back of that cigarette is burning right around 418 degrees. So when you put that smoke inside the lungs, it's hitting it at 418 degrees. So the example I tell kids, I said, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a hamburger patty, right? We're going to heat a cast iron skillet up to 418 degrees. We're going to throw that patty in, but we're immediately going to pull it out. I says, immediately when I pull that out, I said, are there little pieces of hamburger that are cooked? And they're like, yeah. I said, well, let's keep throwing it in, pulling out. I said, after a while, will that hamburger be completely cooked? And they're like, oh, yeah, after a while, it'll be completely cooked. I said, once that hamburger is cooked, can you ever have it go back to being raw? And they're like, no. And I
Oh,
said, that's exactly what's happening inside your lungs. Every time you breathe in,
wow.
a tiny little portion of your lungs get cooked, and it can never go back to being raw again. So this is where, they said, oh, you won't get, emphysema because of the tar that's inside regular cigarettes. Remember how they used to show you the black
Yeah.
ones? That was all tar. But the same kind of thing happens. Eventually, you have trouble breathing. Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
It is. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, yeah. It's nuts. That's the drug information that's inside my head.
All right. So when you go and talk to these kids, and especially with all your different states and everything now that has legalized it, how challenging is it to talk to them about marijuana and even the states that have the medical marijuana? Because you got gummies and all that.
Yeah. You ready for the answer?
Uh-huh.
0. I have 0 problems. Colorado brought me in when marijuana was really popular.
Uh-huh.
I am getting ready to go into the auditorium. I'm met by law enforcement because they're the ones that brought me in. And they said, hey, listen, we're here to protect you. And I said, protect me from what? And they said, in the audience, you have some of the biggest marijuana growers in your audience that are here to challenge.
Oh.
And I'm like, fantastic. I said, I love that. I said, let them bring those questions up. I said, I don't have that type of presentation. And so they're like, okay, but we're here for you. I'm like, yeah, don't leave, right?
Like an episode of Tulsa King or something.
Yeah.
Man.
That's a good one. Yeah. My presentation is based on kids using marijuana. And so every one of these growers was in agreement with me. Let anybody over the age of 21 do whatever they want. I do not want to take that away from anybody. If you want to smoke weed like crazy over the age of 21, that's your prerogative, right? But if you're 12 or 15, you shouldn't be smoking weed, right?
Right.
And it's the same thing as driving a car. We all agree people that have been trained over the age of 16 should drive a car, but no 11-year-old should be getting behind the wheel of a Ford F-150, right? They just don't have the ability.
Right.
So as soon as I brought that up, I let them know immediately, I am not here to take away your rights. I'm not here to even have you stop growing marijuana, but we need to get marijuana out of the hands of kids that shouldn't be using it. And they were all in agreement with me. And so, yeah, I never take a stance on adult use when it comes to marijuana because that's your right, man.
Yeah.
That's what you have. If there's people like, well, you're from the military, man, that have PTSD and, some of those drugs that they give them just completely knock them out where they're not able to work, not able to function. But I know a lot of guys not a lot, but I know a few guys that smoke weed, that have PTSD and it just quiets that voice inside their head for a little bit,
Yeah, I know a lot of friends of mine have back problems and all that. Right. And the marijuana just it helps them. Now, of course, they will not go out and drive while doing it. Which you can't because you can still get a DUI for that.
Right. They're using it responsibly to get through the day. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I understand that.
And I think if you have a CDL license, and there's a couple other jobs where you cannot use it no matter what either.
Right. Yeah. And I understand that, and that makes complete sense to me. And the reason why that is let's say you're a truck driver and they have insurance on you for driving and you get into an accident, but you have THC in your system, the insurance company can come and go, we're not going to pay for that. And so then the company's out. So all of that makes complete sense to me. Yeah.
Have you, and if you tell me you are doing one, I'm going to be blown away again, but have you thought about doing your own podcast?
I've thought about it, but with 400 presentations a year, I would love to do one. And I've talked it because one of my other speakers, Paul Espinosa, because I have other speakers that work with me. He is was a very high level gang member in Los Angeles, and he does our gang prevention stuff when we go into schools. And I'm like, dude,
really?
If you did your part, like if I had my daughter who does great drug and alcohol information and Paul Espinosa and myself on a podcast where we just did a discussion and brought in guests, I think it would go over really good because Paul really, I love the way he talks about our gang stuff because anytime people talk about gang stuff, they always talk about the bad side of gangs. They talk about, the killings and the drive-bys and the drugs and all that. What we have trained Paul to do is talk about I don't want to say the good side, but the side you never see. What
Mm-hmm.
Paul was looking for when he was a kid joining the gang is he was looking for friends. He was looking for somebody to pat him on the back. He was looking for the same thing that you look for, Rich, and the same thing that I look for is that camaraderie. I want to belong to something.
Right.
And he just happened to fall into a gang. So it's crazy because I can walk on a campus with Paul and he can immediately look, no, that kid's going in the right direction to be a gang member. Or if
Mm.
I was, he used to be a recruiter for a while, and he goes, yeah, I could walk on this campus and within 10 minutes, I could pick out 5 kids that I could easily recruit into the gang. And I'm like, what do you look for? And he goes, the way they stand or where they eat lunch or how they stand, And he goes, yeah,
Really?
super, yeah. And I 100% trust him because, I look at his photos and I've, seen the stuff that he's done and, his police record, and he is 100% legit. And, yeah, he does a
Wow.
good job on that. So, yeah.
So it's you, Paul, and your daughter that goes out speaking all the time?
Yeah. And then we have another speaker, Gavin. Gavin appeals. I was the kid in school that was loud, that was not afraid,
Right.
I remember at lunchtime, kids were inviting me to sit at their tables and tell stories. Gavin comes from the other end. He is Asian descent, which we have a large population, and they have a tendency to come into schools and be really quiet and kind of an outcast. And what he does is he comes in and talks about what is your strength? What is the thing that you love to do as a kid? And how do you protect that from drugs and alcohol? So he does this thing called freestyle where he raps on the spot. I mean, it's really cool.
Oh, wow.
Kids go bananas, man. They love it. And he said, I got to protect that. And he said, drugs and alcohol will take that ability for me to do that away from me. What is your thing? And he does it like in 45 minutes. And, kids walk away like, I'm great at basketball. I'm going to pursue this. I'm great at cooking. I'm going to pursue this. So, yeah, right now there's the 4 of us. And, yeah.
All right. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you or anybody else from your team to come out and speak to them, how do they do that? I know it ain't from RayLozano.com.
Yeah, just go to RayLozano.com and go to the contact page in there. And that would be the best way to do it. And even if somebody can't remember my name, if they just went to Google and typed in, youth,
it comes right up.
Yeah, youth drug speaker. I'm the number one guy. I'm the guy that everybody's looking for in the United States when it comes to, law enforcement's looking for me, medical people, all the schools and stuff like that. And so, yeah, that's I think because, man, I make a good rapport with kids and my information is super easy to understand.
That's great.
Yeah.
Next time you get up here, you gotta look me up so we can go out and have some lunch.
Yeah, consider it done, man. I would love that. So,
man, get some Maryland steamed crabs or something,
man, some chowder,
or crab cake, crab cakes.
Yeah.
So before I get to my last question, is there anything you would like to add?
Let me see anything. No, man, I have really enjoyed this, and I like the way you went about this. I hope this was successful for you. But yeah,
I think it was.
Yeah.
I learned a lot, which I know if I did, my listeners did.
Yeah. I would definitely love to be back on the show sometime. But I'm pretty happy with everything. And people can contact me. I really want this book to start moving. And even in the back, there's a way to connect with me and let me know you're out there. I would love to hear people's stories too. Like, oh man, my dad did this one time, or, I think one of the success stories, let me just close with this. We did this presentation, my daughter and I, and we were talking about alcohol, and I was talking about my dad being fighting all that kind of, and I see this girl in the third row back, and you could tell she's really holding back tears and crying.
Right.
And so when the presentation's over, she comes up and she starts talking to my daughter, and she says, when my dad gets really drunk, he insults me. And she goes, really? And she goes, yeah. He's just really verbally abusive. He calls me names. He says how stupid I am and stuff like that. She goes, is that my dad or is that the alcohol? And my daughter says, it's the alcohol. I says, it feels super personal. And you take it personal and you start to believe that it's you, but it's not. So she very quickly went through why alcohol opens that part of the brain up. And you could see like this weight was taken off this girl. And she's like, I understand it now. So my daughter told her, when your dad does that, please look at him maybe with a little bit of pity, like this poor man can't control this. And it's not me he's probably talking about. It's probably himself. And alcohol has gotten him to this place. And so that just happened just recently. And we're going to try to keep up with this girl because I want that to happen more. I want parents to be able to talk to their kids more in a way that a kid understands. And I want people who are being attacked by somebody that's using it to understand, it's the drug, not to excuse their behavior, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to make room for that, but I want them to understand why that's happening. And that's what's really in my book.
Usually I'll ask my guests, what's the next big thing for them? I don't want to do that with you.
Okay.
I want you to do something else.
Okay.
I'm pulling it up right now. Addicted
to learning.
Mm-hmm. All right. So those of you listening, you know where I'm going to go with this. It's hard to type when I don't have my glasses on. Addicted to Learning. All right. So when you go and you purchase the book, Addicted to Learning, after you read it, leave a full review. But all of you listen, I want to challenge you. So when you go to Amazon, all you do is type in Addicted to Learning and Ray's book comes up right away.
Little guy standing right there in the corner. Yeah.
Yeah. It comes up right away. Recovery homes, families that have or know somebody that's in addiction, all types of addiction, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Purchase this book for them. Purchase it for yourself. Purchase it for your neighbors. And let me know, and of course, leave a review for Ray, but also get back to me and let me know how it's helped you, because this is something that everybody needs. Everybody knows somebody that is in addiction. It doesn't matter what kind of addiction it is. Like you said before, you could be addicted to business. I'm addicted to podcasting. I love doing this.
Right. Yeah. You protect it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is something that everybody needs. And I'm going to make it even bigger challenge. Those of you that own businesses and you are always helping people in recovery, purchase a bunch of these books and give them to your employees. Because I guarantee you, even your employees know somebody that's in addiction, or they may be themselves and you may not even know it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I challenge you. I want this thing to climb and be successful, because when his next book comes out, Addicted to Business, oh man, all you business owners are going to want it too.
Yeah.
So,
Rich, you're my new best friend, man.
Well, I want to talk to you after we're done here, because something you said, you must have been reading my mind about coming back on, because I was thinking the same thing, but I think I'm going to blow your mind when I tell you afterwards.
All right, man.
Ray, thanks a lot, brother.
You bet, man. This has been awesome. Thank you so much, Rich. Keep up the good work.
Thanks. Thank you for listening to the Conversations with Rich Bennett. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and learned something from it as I did. If you'd like to hear more conversations like this, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you have a moment, I'd love it if you could leave a review. It helps us reach more listeners and share more incredible stories. Don't forget to connect with us on social media or visit our website at conversationswithrichbennett.com for updates, giveaways, and more. Until next time, take care, be kind, and keep the conversations going.
Hey, Harford County, I'm Emily Adolph of The Soul Lift. You may remember me as a guest on Rich's podcast. Well, I'm back with something special.
And I'm Ona Crow. We're introducing Nourish and Connect, a gathering space designed to bring people together that feels authentic, supportive, and uplifting.
This is about real relationships, shared wisdom, and growth.
Our gatherings nourish with mindful experiences and reflective activities to leave you inspired.
And they're designed to connect with intentional conversations and welcoming community where you truly belong.
They're the second Wednesday of every month. Join us on April 9th at Doss Beer Hall in Bel Air from 5:30 to 7 p.m. to celebrate spring.
And mark your calendars for May 14th and June 11th. We have amazing experiences planned for summer.
Come as you are, and let's grow together.